Hello everyone and welcome back. So you got your research, you got your historical facts. Now you are stuck on writing the label. What do you actually put on it? How do you convey the message that you need from a piece of research? Did you know there is actually a very simple formula for how to do this? I thought we should have a look at it and some examples for how to use it. As always, if you like the content of these videos, please subscribe to the channel and like the video and add your comments below. And ideally also some examples, if you can, about how you would go about using this formula. Let's have a look. What you do is you take one insight from your research, then you take one sentence, and then you create a prompt. Now, what actually is this when you go from research to label? Well, an insight is the meaning of your historical research, not the actual fact itself, but the meaning of that fact. And I'll show you some examples in a moment about what that can be. Then you create a sentence, ideally 18 words or below, if you can below, and it's surprisingly easy to do that, which we'll have a look at in a second. Remember, this has to be visitor facing, no jargon, no museum talk, it has to be visitor facing. Then you create a prompt, meaning a visitor action. This is what make visitors do something or decide something. You want them to act on something. And I talk about in another video about how to use these active words of find, discover, compare, imagine, and so on. There are many, many words you can use to create that sense of action in a prompt or in an activity. Now, let's just try and look at an example so you can see this formula in action. So let's say you have an object. It can be a Second World War ration book or a family cookbook or something from maybe around the 40s. Then you have a piece of insight. Remember, that's the meaning from your historical fact. So, for example, rationing didn't only reduce supplies, it forced new cooking habits. Substitutions, planning and careful saving changed everyday meals. So that's an insight that's based on the historical facts. Now, your sentence can be as simple as rationing did not just cut ingredients, it changed how families cooked. That's the sentence you have created from your piece of research. Now, a prompt could be, a visitor action can be, which ingredient would you save for your birthday? Would it be sugar, maybe butter, chocolate? And why? Why would you want that one? That makes your visitors think about this historical fact and the situation around that historical fact in a very, very specific way. How do I apply this piece of historical information or challenge to my own life? What would that look like? Another example can be, let's say you have an object, you have a Viking Age glass bead, for example, maybe from around early Viking Age, maybe 800 or something. Then you have an insight. Again, the meaning from your historical fact. So a tiny everyday ornament reveals long-distance trade. Imported glass shows connections far beyond local craft. That's the insight you got from your historical research. Then you create your sentence from that. A small bead, a big world. Imported glass shows Viking Age trade far beyond Scandinavia. Now, I've put in two prompts here, or visitor actions. For example, trace a route you think this bead traveled, mark 2 stops on the map. Or a one-word pitch, create a one-word pitch. So, for example, sell this bead to a customer, write one word you would use on a tag. Again, the prompt is made to make visitors think about the fact they have just received, the sentence you have just given them based on the historical research. Because facts are something that we tend to forget, I'm sad to say, very, very quickly. But if we are forced to think about them or act upon them somehow, either think about how they might fit into our own lives, or we have to do something actively around them, that makes them stick, that makes them linger for a lot longer, and it also makes us want to talk about them and discuss them. So let me know what you think about this formula and if you have ever used it. If so, how did you go about that? Can you give us some examples on that? And remember to add your own comments below. It would be really, really fun to share some examples around this.